The Starfaring Era, Shinkan Hongseng no Jidai, Episode 4, Allies Among Stars, The Language Before Words, Daihou Fuwa, Chi no Kya no Doumonsha. Kotoba yori mae no gengo. The distress signal came from a world that had not yet learned to ask for help. Not because the species lacked the technology, the signal itself was sophisticated, structured in the mathematical framework that served as the universal foundation of interstellar communication. But the signal carried, beneath its technical content, a quality that Mary Parker recognized before Amir had finished analyzing it: shame. The signal was a reaching out and an apology at the same time. The specific communication of a civilization that had been self-sufficient for a very long time and was now, for the first time, admitting it could not manage something alone. She understood that feeling. The signal originates from Verath Prime, Amir reported. Third planet of the Verath system. Binary classification. Not the same binary we've been tracking. This one is approximately 4 hours off our current course. A pause. The signal pattern matches distress encoding, but it's not emergency frequency. It's the frequency used for diplomatic outreach. They're asking for help, Princess said, but formally. Formally, while under active duress, Amir confirmed. The signal contains embedded data, sensor readings from their outer orbital stations showing 3 unidentified vessels currently active in their system. 3 unidentified vessels, Amira said from her station, already pulling the profile. Configuration matches the radar network from Epsilon 4. She looked at the display, with the expression she wore when a pattern resolved into something that annoyed her by being obvious. They're hitting the same targets, different system, same operation. Prince Parker stood at the forward display with his arms crossed, and the expression he wore when he was about to say something that he would later, in the privacy of his own assessment, consider accurate. "We are not a rescue service," he said. "We have an operational objective at the binary system relay station. Detouring to babysit an alien species that can't manage its own defense is not a tactical priority." Mary looked at him, not confrontationally, with the specific quality of attention she gave things that required a different framing before they could be properly addressed. 3 vessels from the same network we're already investigating, she said, operating in a system 4 hours off our course. A pause. "That's intelligence, Grandpa, not a detour." Prince's expression did not change, but the quality of his silence shifted. The specific quality of someone who has received a correct reframing and is processing it while deciding whether to acknowledge the reframing's origin. 4 hours, he said. Yes. He looked at the display. "Set course for Verath Prime," he said, "and someone tell the 3 pilots to be ready." Verath Prime arrived on the viewport as a green and silver world, the silver of extensive water coverage, the green of something that looked like vegetation, but caught the binary starlight differently than anything Earth biology produced. Beautiful in the way that places untouched by whatever had tried to touch them always preserved a particular kind of beauty. 2 of the 3 radar vessels were visible in the outer orbital band. The third was deeper, inside the planet's atmosphere, running a low approach toward the largest visible settlement on the northern continent. Mary Parker read this from the shuttle approach and understood it before Amir finished the analysis. The outer 2 were blocking escape routes. The third was the active threat. The formation was the same strategic logic as the Epsilon 4 transit lane, scaled up. They had a method. They used it consistently. "I mean," she said through the pilot channel, "the inner vessel, the one inside the atmosphere." "I see it," Amin said. The Vanguard was already oriented toward the planetary approach vector. "That's the priority." "Understood. Cassandra, the outer 2, coordination disruption first. If they can't communicate, they can't coordinate the response when Amin addresses the inner vessel." "Already building the counter-signal," Cassandra said. From the Cyber Viper, running the analysis that had become, over the past 3 deployments, as natural as breathing. Their encryption is the same architecture as the Epsilon network. Different key, same structure. I'll have the disruption ready before we're in range. On the bridge, Amira looked up from her sensor feed. "The settlement," she said, directly, no preamble. "The residents are not evacuating. The raider vessel in the atmosphere is heading toward the settlement and the population is not moving." "They don't know how to evacuate from this," Princess said. "Or they don't have anywhere to go," Amir said. Mary looked at the settlement on the tactical display, the specific dense arrangement of a community that had grown in one place for a long time, that had built its life around the assumption that this was safe ground. "We need to be faster," she said. The 3 frames launched in the fastest sequence they had managed, a testament to weeks of deployment practice and the specific, irreplaceable efficiency of a team that had stopped needing to tell each other what to do. The Cyber Viper went first. Counter-signal deployment required altitude and range. Cassandra needed to be in position before the engagement began. The Aegis went second. The settlement needed something between it and the incoming vessel. The Vanguard went last, because Armin Parker's operational profile meant the last position in a launch sequence was irrelevant. He would be where he needed to be when he needed to be there. The Alpha Aura reached the raider vessels before the frames did. Not literally. The Alpha Aura was biological, and biology required physical presence. But the specific, unmistakable signal of the Vanguard's approach, the threat assessment signature that every system the Bacchus had encountered had locked and communicated upward, traveled at the speed of the sensor feed. The inner vessel's systems received the incoming profile. It began adjusting course, away from the settlement, toward the frames, which was precisely what it was supposed to do. "It's breaking off the settlement approach," Nishim reported, "reorienting toward the Vanguard frame's position." "Good," Mary said. The Aegis was already at the settlement's upper atmospheric layer, its barrier beginning to initialize. "Let it!" The outer 2 vessels received Cassandra's counter-signal 17 seconds later. Their coordination feed dropped. The specific, practiced efficiency of the Cyber Viper's electronic warfare architecture, 3 deployments of refinement, produced results in half the time it had taken in the Epsilon engagement. The outer vessels lost their synchronized positioning in 8 seconds rather than 15. They moved to compensate. But compensating without coordination meant 2 vessels operating on individual threat assessment, rather than networked tactical logic. An individual threat assessment, encountering the Parker formation, produced the same result it always produced. Both outer vessels locked on Amin Parker. Both. The Alpha Aura registered across 2 independent threat assessment systems simultaneously, and both of them produced the same conclusion. Not the networked conclusion of a coordinated system, the independent parallel conclusion of 2 separate assessments arriving at the same answer. That one. The inner vessel had outposted reached the Vanguard's operational range. Amin did not meet it with the standard approach. He used the ninjutsu principle that the silent investigation had reinforced. The entry by the angle that isn't covered. The inner vessel's threat assessment had locked on his position, so he was not in his position when it committed. The Irami entry. The direct forward movement that his previous engagement had demonstrated to opponents as the unexpected approach when they anticipated the pivot. Against this opponent, which had not encountered the Parkers before, it was simply the most efficient path to the vessel's propulsion system junction. The Taekwondo spinning kick, landing at the engine coupling with the full kinetic weight of the Vanguard's mass, disabled the inner vessel's atmospheric maneuvering capability. It began a controlled drift away from the settlement. The outer 2 required 7 more minutes. Without coordination, each of them ran the engagement individually against a formation that had been built for exactly this kind of distributed, multi-threat management. The Wing Chun chain approach worked on the first. The Aikido Tenkan redirect worked on the second. Both withdrew. The settlement was untouched. On the bridge, Prince Parker watched the engagement resolution. He did not comment on it immediately. He let the resolution complete, let the tactical display confirm all 3 raider vessels were clear of the Verath system, let Amir confirm the settlement's structural integrity. Then he said, That took longer than it should have. Rashim, at his station, looked at his sons. None of them said anything. All of them had the specific quality of people not saying anything very deliberately. 4 minutes and 32 seconds, Amira said. Comparable operations in this network have taken the family 8 to 12 minutes. So it actually... Amira, Prince said. You're going to tell me I didn't need to say that. You didn't need to say that. It was accurate. Accuracy and relevance are not the same thing, Prince said. He looked at the display, at the settlement, at the Aegis, still positioned in the upper atmosphere, Mary maintaining the defensive posture the full 5 minutes after the engagement resolved, the way she always maintained it. He said nothing about that, but he watched it until she brought the Aegis to the landing approach. First contact with the Varathi happened on the settlement's open ground. They were tal, proportioned, for the heavier gravity of Varath, Prima's equatorial band, built with the specific physical density of a species that had been competing with their planet's conditions for a very long time and had won by adapting rather than fighting. Their communication system layered multiple frequency bands simultaneously, a biological capacity that human ears could partially detect, and that the Vanguard's translation systems flagged as linguistically complex. 3 of them came out of the settlement to meet the Parkers. They stopped 20 meters away. Mary Parker walked toward them, not with her full delegation, not with Princess or Amir, or any of the operational infrastructure that formal diplomatic encounters usually required. Alone at walking pace, her hands open and visible. She stopped 10 meters away. She waited. The Varathi on the left spoke first. The translation system required 8 seconds, a longer resolution than human-to-human linguistic processing. Amir's voice came through her earpiece. The closest approximation is, "You answered." Mary looked at the Varathi who had spoken. "Yes," she said. The translation took 6 seconds in a reverse. When it arrived, the Varathi exchanged something between the 3 of them. Rapid, multi-frequency, outside the translation system's full resolution. Then, the one who had spoken stepped forward. Mary did not step back. 3 more seconds. Then, the Varathi did something with their upper limbs, a complex, multi-joint movement that the translation system flagged as a greeting form, but could not fully characterize. Mary mirrored the structure of it. Not precisely. She didn't have the joint architecture for precise mirroring, but the intent, the movement outward, the held position, the return. The Varathi made a sound that the translation system resolved as understood. Behind her, 20 meters back, Cassandra was watching. She was watching Mary, not the Varathi. The specific quality of attention she gave things, she was filing permanently. She had seen her grandmother do this in an Ice Age cave with a child who had no reason to trust anyone, in a cargo hauler with a species she had never encountered, in every situation where the only tool available was the willingness to be present in the way the other person, or being needed someone to be present. She had been watching Mary Parker do this her entire life. She understood, more clearly each time, exactly what it was. The diplomatic session lasted 2 hours, not in a formal space, on the settlement's open ground, with the Varathi's community present at a respectful distance, and the Parker family arranged with the instinctive formation they always fell into. Mary at the center, Princess beside her managing the translation support, Amir building the complete communication model in real time. What emerged from the session was a picture the silent outpost data had implied but not confirmed. The Varathi had been experiencing raids for 7 months. Not random, targeted, specific materials removed, specific research records taken, the same pattern as the Moon Research Station, applied to a living civilization rather than an unmanned post. "They're collecting," Cassandra said. On the bridge, where she and Amin had returned while Mary continued the diplomatic work, she was building the thread across the data points. Epsilon 4, the silent outpost, Verath Prime. Every target has had specific data or material taken, not wholesale looting, selective extraction. Someone is building something, Amin said. Or completing something, Cassandra said. The transit route research from the moon, the biological materials from Verath Prime, the communication disruption infrastructure they deployed in Epsilon. She looked at the data model. These are components. Components of what? Nisa said, from his station. Cassandra was quiet for a moment. I don't know yet, she said. Which was, from Cassandra Brown, the specific, honest answer that meant she had a hypothesis, and was not confident enough in it to state it as fact. On the bridge, Prince Parker looked at the data model Cassandra had built. Then find out, he said. Mary was the last to return to the shuttle. She had stayed on the settlement's open ground while the preliminary alliance protocols were being established, the specific kind of staying that was not obligation but recognition. The Varathi community had gathered at a respectful distance for the full 2 hours. At the end, when Mary stood to leave, the Varathi who had first spoken came forward again. A sound, complex, multi-frequency. Amir in her earpiece. Closest translation. You came when we asked. We did not know if anyone would come. Mary looked at the Varathi. She understood the quality beneath it, not just gratitude, but the specific, vulnerable quality of something that had reached past the edge of its self-sufficiency for the first time and had found the reaching met. You asked, she said. We came. That's how it should work? 6 seconds for the translation. The Varathi made the multi-joint greeting movement again. Mary mirrored it. Better this time. She had been watching it for 2 hours. The Varathi made the sound that translated as understood again, and then something else, longer, more complex, outside the translation system's full resolution. Amir processed it for 11 seconds before offering. I believe it's something like, we will remember this, for longer than you would expect. Mary held the Varathi's gaze for a moment. She thought of the young Homo sapiens child on an Ice Age plain, of the Neanderthal girl who had touched her palm in a world 65 million years, removed from this one, of the alien child in the cargo hauler's amber light, for longer than you would expect. So will we, she said. Prince Parker was at the navigation interface when Mary came aboard, not reviewing data, standing at the interface with his arms crossed in the way he stood when he was waiting for something, rather than working on something, which was a rare configuration for Prince Parker, and which Mary recognized. She came to stand beside him. He looked at the Verath system on the navigation display, at the settlement's position, at the preliminary alliance coordinates that Princess had filed into the ship's diplomatic records. We gained an intelligence source, he said. The Varathi have been observing the radar network for 7 months. Their data, combined with ours, produces a more complete operational picture than we had before. Yes, Mary said. That is why the detour was justified, he said. Mary looked at her husband. Yes, she said. That's one reason. He held her gaze for a moment. Something moved through his expression. The specific, brief quality that appeared when Prince Parker was aware he had said something that was technically correct and simultaneously insufficient. He turned back to the display. Set course for the binary system relay station, he said. We have enough now to know what we're heading toward. He walked toward the bridge. Mary watched him go. Then she looked at the Verath system on the display, at the green and silver world that had asked for help for the first time and had received it and would remember it, for longer than you would expect. She turned toward the bridge. The stars waited, as they always waited, and the family moved toward what came next. End of Episode 4, Allies Among Stars, The Language Before Words, Shingen Hansing no Jidai,第4話、真の間の同盟者、言葉より前の言語遭難信号は、まだ助けを求めることを学んでいなかった世界から来た。種族が技術を持っていないからではない。信号自体は洗練されていて、標間通信の普遍的な基盤となる数学的フレームワークで構造化されていた。 しかし信号はその技術的内容の下に、パーカー・メアリーがチェンバース・アメアが分析を終える前に認識した死を運んでいた。信号は通信のを開始しべることと謝罪だった。非常に長い間自立してきた文明の、初めて一人では何かを管理できないことを認めている特定のコミュニケーション、その感覚を理解していた。信号はヴェラスプライムから発信されているとチェンバース・アメアは報告した。ヴェラス系の第三惑星、連星分類、追跡している連星とは異なる。現在のコースから約4時間外れた場所、一時停止。信号パターンは遭難エンコーディングと一致する。しかし、緊急周波数ではない、外交的接触に使用される周波数だ。助けを求めているとパーカープリンセスは言った。しかし政治に、積極的な苦行の下で政治にとチェンバース・アメアは確認した。信号には埋め込みデータが含まれている。外周軌道ステーションからのセンサー読み取り、現在彼らの席で活動中の3種の未確認船舶を指している。3種とキャンベル・アミラは言った。すでにプロファイルを引いていた。構成はエプシロン4の略他者ネットワークと一致する。明らかなことに角立った表情で、音磁標定を攻撃している。別の席、同じ作戦。パーカー・プリンスは丸を組んで前のディスプレイに撮っていた。私たちは救助サービスではないと彼は言った。連行系のリレーステーションに作戦目標がある。自分の包囲を管理できないエイリアン中途の世話をするために、予解することは戦術的優先事項ではない。パーカー・メアリーは彼を招いた。対立的にではなく、適切に対処する前に異なる組み立てを必要とする者に与える忠義の特定の死で、すでに調査している同じネットワークからの差しすと彼女は言った。コースから多時間外れた死で活動中、維持停止。それは情報、おじいちゃん、予解ではない。パーカー・プリンスの表現は変わらなかった。しかし、沈黙の死がシフトした。正確な再組み立てを受け取った誰かの特定の死で、それを処理しながら、その起源を認めるかどうか決めている。指示官と彼は言った。はい。ディスプレイを待ちた。ヴェラスプライムに新流創生、整理しろ。と彼は言った。そして三輪のパイロットに準備するよう誰かが伝えろ。ヴェラスプライムはギビトコの世界としてビューポートに現れた。広大な西側のものと植物に見えるが、地球の生物学が生み、き出すものとは異なって連鏡の光を受け取る不思議の何か。美しかった。何かが触れようとしたものに触れられていない場所が常に保持する特定の種類の薄さで、三種の劣化した塩分のうち、エナシが外周軌道台に向かえた。3番目はより早く、覚醒の大気圏内をピ大陸の最大の集落に向けて引くアプローチを実行していた。パーカー・メアリーはこれをシャトルのアプローチから読んで、チェンバース・アメアが分析を終える前に理解した。そせがシネルは逃走ルートをブロックしていた。3番目がアクティブな脅威。体制はエプシロン4の助走レーンと同じ戦略的リレー、スケールアップしていた。アミンと彼女はパイロットチャンネルで寄った。内側クエンブ大気圏内のもの。見えているとパーカー・アミンは言った。優先事項、了解。カサンドラ、塗装側の西。最初に調整を妨害。通信できなければ、パーカー・アミンが内側の電波に対処するときの応答を調整できない。すでに対信号を構築中とブラウン・カサンドラは言った。 暗号化はエプシロンのネットワークと同じアーキテクチャ、異なる間、同じ構造、射程内に入る前に中断を準備する。3つのフレームが管理した中で、最も速いシーケンスで発射した。サイバーバイパーが最初。ブラウン・カサンドラには高度と車窓が必要だった。イージスが2番目。白飛び来る電波の間に何かが必要だった。ヴァンガードが最後。パーカー・アミンの作戦プロファイルが発射シーケンスの最後の位置を無関係にしたから。必要な時に必要な場所にいる。アルファオーラはフレームより前にラダカシア爆に届いた。内側の手爆機のシステムが来るプロファイルを受け取った。コースを調整し始めた。サクルから離れて。フレームに向かって。それが正確にするべきことだった。フェルアプローチを中断した後、パーカー・ニシームは報告した。ヴァンガードフレームの位置に向けて再方向付けしている。良いとパーカー・メアリーは言った。イージスはすでに集落の上層大気に向かっていた。させて。パーソナ・ニニャ氏はブラウン・カサンドラの対信号を時期妙後に受け取った。協調フィードが落ちた。発妙で、エプシロンの強戦の実無妙からの改善。マソダワの戦波は個別の脅威評価で動作するようになった。そして個別の脅威評価はパーカーの対象に相互するとき、常に4次結果を生み出した。両方の外側の戦波がパーカー・アミンにロックした。アルファオーラが2つの独立した脅威評価システムに同時に登録した。あれ、内側の全波はヴァンガードの作戦範囲に到達した。パーカー・アミン入り身のエントリーを使った最新の直接な手書き。戦波の推進システムの結合部への最も効率的な経路。テコンドーのスピニングキック。エンジンの結合部にヴァンガードの治療の全運動エネルギーで着地。内側の天没の大危険相乗能力を無理化した。集落から離れて制御されたドリフトを始めた。外側のニーヤ氏はさらに気分を要した。協調なしに個々が個別に強戦した。分散した複数脅威管理のために構築された体制に対して、最初にウィングチュンのチェーン、2番目に下軌道の転換のリダイレクト、両方が撤退した。集落は無情だった。ブリッジでパーカー・プリンスは強戦の解決を命じた。四分32秒とキャンベル・アミラは限った。このネットワークの比較可能な作戦は家族にバヌから12時間かかっている。だから実費。アミラとパーカー・プリンスは言った。言う必要がなかったと言うつもりでしょう。言う必要はなかった。制約だった。正確さと関連性は同じではない。とパーカー・プリンスは言った。ディスプレイを見にた集落を。まだ上層大気に位置しているイージスをパーカー・メアリーが強戦解決の無分後まで包囲大使を維持していた。それについては何も言わなかった。しかしイージスが着地アプローチに通るまで秘めていた。ヴェラ氏とのファーストコンタクトは覚悟の開いた地で起きた。彼らは高かった。ヴェラスプライムの七ダの中理のために比率が決まって、長い全活性の条件と競争して戦いではなく、修行で勝ってきた種の特定の身体的密度で作られていた。彼らのコミュニケーションシステムは複数の周波数帯を同時に重ねた。人間の耳が部分的に検出できて、ヴァンガードの翻訳システムが言語的に複雑とフラグを立てた生物の機能力。3人が集落からパーカー家族を迎えに出てきた。2初メートル離れて止まった。パーカー・メアリーは彼らに向かって歩いた。代表団なしで、パーカー・プリンセスもチェンバース・アメアも政治な外交的接触が 通常必要とする作戦インフラも持たず、一人で歩くペースで手を開いて見えるようにして4メートルで止まった。待った。周囲のベラ氏が最初に話した。翻訳システムは波名を要した。チェンバース・アメアの声がイヤピースから来た。声も近い私は、あなたは答えた。パーカー・メアリーは話したベラ氏を見た。はい、と彼女は言った。翻訳は気方向にルミをかかった。到着すると、ベラ氏は三輪のカナで何かをやり取りした。急速で多周波で翻訳システムの完全な解決の里、そして話した者が前に踏み出した。パーカー・メアリーは交代しなかった。3秒後、ベラ氏は上智で複雑なマルチジョイントの手書きをした。翻訳システムが挨拶の形とフラグを立てたが、完全には特徴化できなかった。パーカー・メアリーはその構造を判明した。正確にではなく、正確な判明のためのジョイントアーキテクチャを持っていなかった。しかし、意と目外側への動き、保持された位置、戻り、ベラ氏は翻訳システムが理解として解決するものを作った。後ろで20メートル離れて、ブラウン・カサンドラは見ていた。パーカー・メアリーを見ていた。ベラ氏ではなく、庸俗的にファイリングしている者に与える祝儀の特定の日で、祖母が信頼する理由のない子供と共に氷河期の洞窟でするのを見ていた。カーゴホーラーで初めて相互したジュースと一緒に、別の人または存在が必要とする方法で存在する石だけが利用可能なツールだったすべての状況で、パーカー・メアリーが人生を通じてこれをするのを見ていた。毎回より明確に、それが正確に何であるかを理解していた。外交セッションは2時間続いた。2時間で出てきたのは、沈黙の全焼基地のデータが示唆したが確認していなかった回だった。ベラ氏は日だけ月間落差を経験していた。ランダムではなく、秒でをじゃうつて、テディングの改良がくられ、テディングの40ギルが取られた。立木の研究ステーションと同じパターン、友人のない拠点ではなく生きている文明に使用されて、集めているとブラウン・カサンドラは言った。ブリッジでパーカー・アミンと共に戻っていた。データポイントにわたってスレッドをCONSしていた。エプシロンフォン、沈黙の全焼基地、ヴェラスプライム。すべての標的で特定のデータまたは材料が取られている。全面的な略とではない、選択的な抽出。誰かが何かを構築しているとパーカー・アミンは言った。または完成させているとブラウン・カサンドラは言った。域からの収束ルート研究、ヴェラスプライムから生物材料、エプシロンで展開した通信妨害インフラ。これらはコンポーネントだ。何のコンポーネントとパーカーにシールはステーションから言った。ブラウン・カサンドラはしばらく静かだった。まだわからないと彼女は言った。ブラウン・カサンドラからそれは仮説を持っていて、それを仕事として述べるのに十分な自信がないという特定の正直な答えだった。なら見つけろとパーカー・プリンスは言った。パーカー・メアリーは最後にシャトルに戻った。彼女が乗つとき、最初に話したヴェラ氏が再び前に来た。音。複雑で多周波数。チェンバース・アメアがイヤピース越しに最も深い翻訳。あなたは確か来んだ時来た。周囲かが来るかふんからなかった。パーカー・メアリー・ハベラ氏を見にた。その下の死を理解した感謝だけではなく、自分の自立性の橋を越えて初めて手を伸ばして、その手伸ばしが迎えられた何かの特定の脆弱な使命。あなたは頼めなく、私たちは来た。そうあるべき方法だと彼女は言った。あなたたちを覚えているでしょう。あなたたちが
予想するより長くとヴェラ氏が最終的に伝えた。パーカー・メアリー派、ヴェラ氏の実現を保持した。平賀期の平原のホモ・サピエンスの子供を思った。カーゴホーラーの琥珀色色の光のネガの宇宙の子供を、私たちもそうします、と彼女は言った。パーカー・プリンスはパーカー・メアリーが乗り込んだとき、ナビゲーションインターフェースにいた。彼女はパトレナに立ちに来た。情報源を得たと彼は言った。ヴェラ氏は何ヶ月間略他社ネットワークを観察してきた。彼らのデータと私たちのデータを組み合わせると、以前より完全な作戦的害が得られる。はいとパーカー・メアリーは言った。それが予言が正当化された理由だと彼は言った。パーカー・メアリーは節を見にた。はいと彼女は言った。それが一つの理由。彼はしばらく彼女の実践を保持した。技術的に正確で同時に不十分なことを言ったと認識した時のパーカー・プリンスの特定の短い羽ディスプレイに持った。連想系のリレーステーションに真率を設定しろと彼は言った。今や向かっているものが何かを知るのに十分なものがある。あれれいた。パーカー・メアリーは彼が行くのを手にた。それからディスプレイのヴェラス系を見にた。初めて助けを求めて、受け取って、覚えるだろう旅と音の世界。あなたたちが予想するより長く、ブリッジに向いた。形は常に待つように待っていた。そして、家族は次に狩るものへ向かって働いた。第4話終わり。その間の同盟者、言葉より前の言語。